porque literalmente él estudió en la misma escuela que yo, lo único que es 10 años de diferencia, porque él es 10 años menor, sí, él es 10 años menor que yo.
Wow.
Yo sí, yo me veo joven, pero él se ve más viejo. Mentira.
This is Alba. Not only is she an incredibly hilarious and easygoing person, a great Spanish teacher and an author of a book, but as you might have seen already, she comes from the same town and studied at the same school as this young man, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, whom the majority knows as Bad Bunny. Benito comes from a town called Vega Baja in Puerto Rico, and apart from being famous for its beauty, culture, and, well, Bad Bunny, Puerto Rico is also well known for its vibrant Spanish accent, which does translate really well when Benito opens his mouth in English, which is his second language. In this video, Alba will be helping me dissect the native features of his Puerto Rican English. Let's get going. So, as you might have noticed, Benito struggles to speak English. I have watched hours of his interviews, probably all the interviews he has given in English, which made me question my heterosexuality just a little. But let's get to the point, because Puerto Rico is a part of the United States of America, so it would make sense for Benito, as a US citizen, to speak English fluently. But there is a much more complex history there.
So in Puerto Rico, they teach us English since we are babies, like from Head Start all the way until you graduate, even in college. But the thing is, we don't use it. Like it's not the primary language for the island.
So the thing is, before becoming a part of the US, Puerto Rico was Spanish for over 400 years. And when the Americans finally came over to the island, they were very aggressive with their assimilation policy, which didn't seem to be very fruitful. So after 50 years of trying, they finally gave Puerto Rico their autonomy. So although Spanish-ers did not just survive in the culture, they also survived right here, in La Boca.
What I've noticed is that Spanish doesn't have a lot of consonants stacked on top of each other. It's facts. The word facts is so not Spanish. In español es factos, hechos, pero.
No, hechos. Factos es un anglicismo que lo están usando mucho, by the way.
Sí. Sí, pero de todos modos, como si usamos factos, es como hay un vocal entre cada. Vale, casi entre cada consonante, pero en inglés nunca se pronuncia como se escribe.
One of my best friend right now, but
a whole story in a different world, living
As I have complained before, English is very illogical with its writing, and it allows 3, 4, 5 consonants to stack on top of each other while still keeping it one sound. Spanish is a lot clearer in that regard, so for a Spanish speaker, world is much harder to pronounce fully, so he just simplifies it. And the same with friends. Instead of trying to pronounce that ending completely, he just cuts it off.
So far, as your fame has grown?
No, it's not a apology. It's more like, no, I don't think that is apolojai. Maybe
this one is very interesting because just that one apolojai would probably fit for a half of this video. First of all, grammatically, apology would be the right word there, but it seems like he's trying to pronounce apologize. Well, Spanish doesn't have the Z sound, and when Spanish speakers try to pronounce the Z, it usually sounds like S.
maybe in jewelry, but not like crazy.
you can feel close from home through the music.
But Puerto Rican Spanish tends to pronounce S as H or not pronounce it completely.
Cabrón, como que no. Yo quise hacer mucho más.
So it will come out as apolojai. And you could object that he's not trying to say apologize, but apology. Well, in that case, my apologies, but his apology doesn't sound like apology either.
No,
As your fame has grown?
No, it's not a apology. It's more like, no.
It sounds like that because Spanish doesn't have the j sound, and the y is actually its brother because these sounds interchange simply by moving the position of your tongue in the mouth.
So you're looking for something new now?
Yeah. Also, I just want to enjoy.
I've been thinking about this project. New York, that was one of the first songs that I made.
Inspire the new generation.
Also, Spanish prefers N before M. A lot of words that have M in Spanish will have N in English, so when Benito tries to pronounce the words that have those letters, he'll randomly interchange them.
And then the songs come out again, courtside games, and I never seen my biggest, Adam Sandler. So we was watching the game, and I was, every time that I could, trying to sneak to him, oh yeah.
It's a rhythm that has a lot of is very rich. Is a really rich rhythm, and also the music that I've been listening to all this time. Cause
Another life or something. So that's the closest thing to live another life.
So I'm gonna tell you, I did it for the first time.
Sí.
Dependiendo de su posición. Like the position of the letter next to the other, like the other one. Ahí es que viene la pronunciación.
You can definitely notice a pattern here. He'll choose the letter that is closest to the next one he's about to pronounce.
He loves to give the best every time, so yeah, it's very...
In this case, N is much closer to T than M in the mouth. In fact, you don't even have to change the tongue position. Try yourself. N, T, N, T. Yeah, it's the same. Okay, next one.
And then when you are growing up, you start to appreciate more this music. The process of this album.
Puerto Rican Spanish doesn't have the sound, so he'll use D instead. By the way, he actually has a very interesting D.
Is trying to do something different and try to keep what I've been doing all these years.
The D in Spanish is dental and it's pronounced with the tip of your tongue hitting the teeth. In English, the D is alveolar, so it sounds much softer. By the way, listen to how he pronounces the I in different.
Trying to do something different, and
Spanish doesn't have the I sound, which is present in English, so Spanish speakers will usually substitute it with E.
And I was a little tipsy, so I got emotional.
Picture our history.
By the way, all this stuff, it goes both ways. This is a part of a conversation where Alba shares her experience teaching Spanish.
A una persona de Estados Unidos o solo con lengua materna inglés hablando español es siempre prueba.
Yes, sí. Es como que, yo como que, yo que soy maestra, yo doy clase de español a niños de kinder, de jardinería, hasta octavo, like what is middle school, right? So from 5 years old to 13 years old, 5 a 13 años, okay? And es bien interesante porque, like what you say right now, algunos eran como que super robot. Like, and like, y yo like, relájate.
By the way, talking about relaxing, the next sound is schwa. If you're not familiar with schwa, it sounds like this. And it's probably the most common vowel sound in English. It's used in unstressed vowels in words like alone or album, but Spanish doesn't have schwa. So listen to how Benito pronounces it.
The last time that I went to a place by myself, alone, más que sentirme libre, I think that I found myself creating that album.
There's actually a lot of other cases where his Puerto Rican mouth just goes home. For instance, he tends to use on instead of in or at, because in Spanish, those three are represented by the same word.
And to me, it's hard to make friends no matter what. It was hard in high school.
And then, of course, I born on 1994. There's a lot of influence, not just on my blood.
Now, he really tries to hide his accent, but in some places you can see him trying just a little bit too hard.
Okay, I think he's trying to compensate a lot.
Okay, yeah. I've noticed that because he's actually trying. Like he speaks. I think in the last couple of years he started to speak a lot better and a lot more English, and he's trying. Like if I watch a 1 hour interview with him, he starts very cleanly. He starts very like every word is pronounced the way it has to be. It speaks slowly, but it speaks very composed. But the more he speaks, he kind of gets into the flow, and he starts speaking like his Puerto Rican acento starts to break out a bit. Yeah.
These are the little examples of him trying to overcompensate.
People that I know, like, should I give him this role? What you think?
Great musicians.
Shield one. Okay. Let me see.
Let's try this.
I have This for you, like a change.
Okay.
Finally, the most prominent feature of the Puerto Rican Spanish is replacing the R sound with L. Puerto Rico is probably the most obvious example, but they actually use that replacement everywhere.
Toda la isla tenemos el mismo problema. Quizás lo... Sí, yo digo... yo no digo problema. Quizás lo que podríamos decir es que hay regiones que, por ejemplo, son más fuertes. Como que la pronunciación todavía es más... se nota más cuando lo dicen, lo de la R por la R, pero igual en toda la isla va a suceder. Uno, como nace y se cría ahí, no lo procesa de esa forma, obviamente. Le sale natural y ya ve. Ahora mismo yo dije natural y tú escuchas como que en vez de decir de natural, dije natural, con dos L. Pero ya es el cerebro, ya no soy yo,
So it's a really common thing in Puerto Rican Spanish, but let's actually hear him use that in English.
Que cualquier award or whatever.
To be fair, I did cheat here because he's not really speaking English in that sentence. It's more like Spanglish. That was the only clip that I could find him use that with an English word, and 99% of the time he nails it.
Porque creo que al final eso me llena más de orgullo que cualquier premio, que cualquier award or whatever.
Yeah, that was almost completely Spanish. So let's focus on another thing that he does really well. Spanish speakers tend to pronounce V as B because that's how it works in Spanish. Benito almost has it polished. I only managed to find one clip where the B slips out.
My mom, she bought a ticket to go to New York and to Connecticut and to visit family.
Overall, I think his English is improving really rapidly and he's working very hard on his pronunciation, and there is probably no point for him to change the way he speaks to sound more correct.
It's totally fine to have an accent. It's just, the main point is to sound as close as you can to the natives, but it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of your accent completely. Yeah, because it's kind of part of your identity.
Yes, and also when I was learning something before becoming a teacher, they say the main goal when you're learning a new language is to communicate. Yeah. As long as the person who you're talking to can understand the message that you're trying to tell the other person, you're good. Yeah. Forget about it. You make a mistake, forget about it. Also, obviously you want to be a professional, right? Yeah. If we want to work in the court or something, that's something else. Yeah. But in the real life, daily situation, the main goal is you be able to communicate with the other person.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to check out this one next. Also, like, share, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.